My first wave of rental properties I bought 10 years ago this year. And in those 10 years, I've had the ups and the downs, all the things you hear about. And at the 10-year mark, I started looking back. What are the big things I've learned? What are the takeaways? What are the things I would have done differently? And what do I, based on that experience, now recommend to other people? I'm going to tell you the top 3 things, takeaways, lessons learned, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to tell you the top 3 of my 10-year hindsight about owning rental properties. Are you ready? Now, let's start with potentially the most exciting, because this one, unlike the other 2, is for the positive. The other 2 are more kind of like, ooh, lessons learned, ouch, should have done that better. But number 1 is not something I should have done better. It's something amazing that I was not expecting. Now, I'll start with what this one is by telling you, if you aren't familiar with the 5 profit centers of a rental property, I need you to pause this video and go down into the description and click the video that I'm going to link to called the 5 profit centers of a rental property. I was taught this when I first started buying rentals. I heard it, I knew what it meant, but I did not really take it to heart. And the number 1 thing that I'm going to tell you of my 10-year hindsight of owning rental properties is that I did not take the 5 profit centers seriously enough. They sounded great in theory, but I didn't have the practical experience to know how great they would be. For instance, my favorite one that I was not expecting over the years, I kind of heard about it, but not really, rent increases. I had no idea how powerful rent increases would be. So when I first started looking at my rental properties, I was running the cash flow for the property at that time, at that rent amount, at the fixed rate of my loan and all that, the expenses, the income. Great, the cash flow was what it was, but I did not anticipate how much the rent amount would increase. All the while, the expenses, including the mortgage, really didn't increase that much. Yeah, escrow for the property taxes and the insurance went up, so my mortgage payment, which was principal plus taxes and insurance in escrow, went up, but not nearly at the rate that the rent increases did. So in 10 years, my cash flow margin has continued to do this, and I'm only at the 10-year mark. So never mind all of the other profit centers, just the cash flow alone. And some of the properties that this has happened on aren't even the nicest ones I own. The nicest ones have had the biggest increases, but even the less nice properties have had massive rent increases. So that cash flow is huge. So that first takeaway in the 10-year look back is, now those 5 profit centers are starting to make a lot more sense and they're becoming a lot more powerful. I'm going to also link to a video down below about rent increases where I go into the details and I give you some actual math examples. What was my initial cash flow? What is it now 10 years later? How does that affect the cash on cash return? So go check out that video, get all those details, and I hope that it jazzes you up as much as it does me about the rent increases and really drives the point home of how stupidly profitable rental properties can be over the long term. Yeah, they were kind of profitable at year 1 and year 2 and whatever, but at 10 years, oh man. Okay, I'm gonna get off this one now. So now you know my number 1 look back. It's how much those profit centers are real and how much the profit continues to increase at an exponential rate as long as I hold the property. Now, number 2 takeaway after 10 years of doing rental properties. Hands down, for sure, the biggest thing that I did not take seriously enough when I was buying properties, mostly out of ignorance because I just didn't know that I should be doing this, and which is why I'm going to tell you that you should be doing it, is due diligence. Now, compared to when I started buying rental properties, I am very clear on how to do thorough due diligence on any property that I'm about to buy. Back then, A, I didn't know that I should do it, and B, even if I did know it, I didn't totally know what I should be verifying or what I should check up on. How do I verify all the numbers in a pro forma? How do I double check the property condition? On and on. What all things should I be checking? So huge thing for me and learning, not only for my own properties, but from watching a lot of other people buy their properties. And I fortunately kind of got a little bit lucky. I've had some things that I should have caught in due diligence for sure. But as far as how bad it can go if you skip due diligence, I've gotten out kind of good given how little due diligence I did. But because I work with so many people buying properties, I've seen people not do due diligence, and it has come around to sock them in the face in a big, expensive way. I cannot drive home enough the criticality of due diligence. And if you know me, you know I'm involved with turnkey rental properties, and turnkeys especially, in my opinion, seem to kind of give off this vibe that you don't have to do due diligence. 100% not accurate. Do it. I don't care if it's a turnkey, a value add, a flip, whatever you're doing, make due diligence and learning due diligence your number one priority. If you want help with that, I'm happy to help. I have an ebook for turnkey due diligence. It can also be used for regular rental property due diligence, but it's turnkey focused. I'm going to link to that down below, and also link to a video regarding due diligence. So have absolutely, hands down, make that a part of your experience and your analysis. And before you buy any property, make sure you're doing due diligence. Whoo! It gets so many people in trouble. Do it. Then, the last thing, looking back over the last 10 years of what went good, what went bad, what should I have done better? Other than due diligence, the other thing that I should have done a lot better is my managing of property managers. So obviously if you're landlording your own property, this may not pertain to you, but I use property managers on all but one of my properties. And my biggest mistake with the property managers, I always did a pretty good job hiring them. And I was pretty good at interviewing. I'm pretty big on vibe. Like, I don't know, do they vibe well? Not that you can really make that an official criteria. But all the property managers that I hired started out really well. But with most of them, shy of the ones I currently work with, there was kind of a point in time where they grew too fast, they got overloaded, basically the quality of their services went down. And the big mistake that I made in that time was believing them when they would say, it'll get better. Sorry, I got busy. Sorry this, sorry that, it'll get better, I promise. And I was like, okay, because I'm super gullible. Every single time without fail, when we got to the point of having to have that conversation, no matter what promises they made, trust me, it did not get better. And when property management starts to get bad, it can be so costly to you as the rental property owner. Don't let it get there, because I feel like every bad thing that can happen on a rental property, once you own it, is somehow trickles down from property management. Yeah, obviously if there's some nasty repair or whatever, that's not the property manager's fault, but bad tenants, extended vacancies, whatever it is, in the management side of things, that's where things go wrong. And the hard part for you as the investor is that no matter what they goober up and mess up, it's at your expense. They don't have to pay for any of that. So it is so important with property management to make sure, you don't want to micromanage, but you want to make sure that they are doing their job and they're staying on top of things, because if they are not, you're going to be the one to pay for it. I have a whole playlist on YouTube about property managers and property management and how to help navigate it, because it is such a critical part of the rental property aspect if you are using property managers to manage your property. So, quick recap. Looking back over 10 years of owning my first round of rental properties, what have I learned? What are the takeaways? The best takeaway all day long is how freakishly profitable they can be over the long term. I did not grasp that in the beginning. So, yay, bonus to me. And then, do not slack on due diligence. I have seen it get so many people in trouble. I've had to pay out because of a lack of due diligence. If you don't know what due diligence is or how to do it yet, don't invest yet. Take the time to learn due diligence, period. And then if you're using property managers, Don't jump the gun too fast and just fire them anytime there's a problem, but don't do like I did and let it ride out for a while, because I promise you it's going to get costly the longer it goes on. Be willing and ready to step in and do something about the management if something takes a turn. Trust me, it gets expensive. So, if these things were helpful, hit the like button. If the first one about the excessive profits that I wasn't expecting was exciting, and now you're jazzed thinking about the long-term profit potential of your properties, hit the like button. And if you've owned properties for some amount of time, throw down in the comments, what are your learnings? What are your hindsights? Looking back, did you make any specific mistakes you now want to do better? Are there any things that have happened that you were not expecting, good or bad? Leave it all in the comments, because I feel like all of my experience that I have now is because of the on-the-job training. I just didn't know this much in the beginning, and most investors can't know that much in the beginning. So if all of the experienced investors can try to pass that information down to the beginners and really paint the real life perspectives of these things, I feel like it'll help everybody. So if you agree, hit that like button, and don't forget to be subscribed to my channel so you can see a new video every single week. Until next time.